Now you take this information and put it together with what I just said about 18 times more people, 55 times more currency. China was not involved. China and Russia were not involved in the last bull market at all. It was illegal. And so this time is really different. Okay, and if you think it's too late to buy gold and you're using the CPI, then buy silver. That's my answer.
Silver is so undervalued. So even just to get back to the CPI, it would have to be $200 an ounce. We're so far below that, and then potentially as high as $2,000 an ounce, which is staggering. But this is what the numbers come out with.
Yes, yeah, and I believe that the $200 per ounce figure is a very attainable figure in a rush, and there is a rush that's coming.
And the follow-up question that so many people have is it too late to get into gold? Why or why not? And David Ingalls here says gold prices have topped the inflation-adjusted price set 45 years ago. So is it over, or is the bull run going to continue?
Depends on what inflation indicator you subscribe to. And it also depends on, you've got to take a look at what was happening in 1980. There were a lot of similarities geopolitically with wars and with, tremendous amount of similarities, except debt to GDP back in 1980 was at about 30%, not 120 or whatever it is now. I can't remember the exact figure right now. Right now, we seem to be in some social unrest where the country seems to be falling apart. And then on top of that, we've got the potential of World War III, like always, just right around the corner. And then you take a look at the book we wrote, Great Gold and Silver Rush of the 21st Century. Back in 1980, it was 10% of the world's population that took the price of gold from $35 up to $873 intraday. Because at first it was just Western Europe and Canada. And then first day of 1975, the US got to join the party. First day of 76, Australia got to join the party. But it was illegal for most of the world's population. There were no markets where they could buy gold, no exchanges that affected the global price. So even if you lived in a place where it was legal, but everybody was poor, South America, Africa, those places, there's no exchanges. So you might be able to buy gold from another individual. In the USSR, all of those Eastern Bloc countries and Russia, it was illegal. It was illegal in China under Mao. It was illegal to invest in bullion. There, you could buy jewelry and coins in India, but there was restrictions on bullion back then. And so the most of the world was restricted from participating. And today it is only North Korea. And that means that, we did a study and we adjusted it for the population growth and everything else. And there are 18 times more people to buy that can legally buy and afford gold and silver. And on top of that, there is 55 times more currency, and there's only twice as much gold available. So, what does this add up to? Even if you, get rid of the 18 times more people, 55 times more currency, twice as much gold, that means there's 25 times the purchasing power coming at it this time. And we've probably got a far bigger crisis heading towards us because of all the energy that has built up from this phony baloney monetary system we've got that is immoral and should be illegal.
I agree completely. And you asked me before the presentation to include a different chart of inflation-adjusted gold. So previously I made this chart adjusting for the CPI. We're basically at that record peak, as we just saw in the previous slide. However, if you don't use the phony baloney government CPI numbers and instead use the original numbers that the government used, the peak in the gold price should be up around $33,000, $34,000 an ounce.
Yes, and so the question, is it too late? To me, you got to pick a number between these two sets of government numbers. This is not something John Williams of ShadowStats Government Statistics came up with on his own. It's not lunatic conspiracy theory stuff. It's the old way the government used to calculate inflation, and their new manipulated way where they change every couple of years, they change something on the way that they calculate the CPI. And basically, it saves them a lot by screwing people out of Social Security entitlements and things like that. Anything that where the government is sending out a check that it gets inflation adjusted, the old CPI would cost the government a fortune. The new CPI, it costs the recipient a fortune. And so pick a number somewhere between $3,500 and 34,000, because we can round, and because this chart is a month old or so.
Exactly. Yeah. So the bull market in gold is not over yet. That's the takeaway there.
By no means. Now, look at the state of the U.S. economy. We are teetering on a knife's edge, and I do believe that whatever comes next is going to be one of the greatest crashes in history. And the only way that they can stop it is to print massive amounts. Just, it's Bernankenomics. Bernanke changed everything. And the printing just means that gold will have an even higher price.
Yeah, exactly.
So
judging by inflation, the bull market is not over. And in a previous video, we actually speculated that the bull market would continue because of real interest rates, specifically negative real interest rates. And we talked about this chart here, Mike, where we showed that the two bull markets in gold, which are in red boxes, they correspond with the stalactites here, which are negative real interest rates. So that's the Fed funds rate minus the CPI.
Yeah.
So,
and I made some special requests from you.
Yes, you said, well, what if we adjusted this not by the CPI, but by the ShadowStats CPI, which is probably more accurate. It's the government's old numbers. And so I did that. And that's basically the black line here. And you can see how deeply negative, like really, really deeply negative real interest rates are for decades.
Wow.
And the gray line here is the midpoint of the two. So it's halfway between the CPI and the ShadowStats CPI. So halfway. So
I think it sort of makes sense too. When you think about the inflation that was happening once COVID lifted and all that currency from the stimulus checks that went out came out of hiding, that inflation that was there and people's real experience. How much more does it cost to go out to dinner? How much more does it cost to go shopping at the supermarket, and so on? I sort of believe that gray line in the middle. Because the real interest rate that's in red, the real rate adjusted by the CPI, doesn't fit my experience in real life.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
I think the gray line probably somewhere in the middle, but either way, we've got negative rates, negative real rates, no matter which metric you want to use. And I want to look at
before you move on, though, do you see how the gray line in the 90s is hovering around zero? And then where the red box starts is where the gray line dips significantly below zero, right where the red box, that gray line corresponds to the bull market in gold perfectly. Wow. Okay. Now you can move on.
Exactly. So a logical follow-up question here is, well, what's going to happen with real interest rates? Are they going to stay negative or are they going to go positive? And to add fuel to the fire, we've got movement in China that's basically sort of encouraging their citizens to buy more gold. So China proposes rule changes to ease gold imports and exports. So this is according to Bloomberg. China sought to ease licensing rules for gold imports and exports as the world's largest consumer of the precious metal continues to diversify its reserves away from US dollars. The country plans to expand the use of multi-use permits, a faster approval system, by increasing the number of ports that can accept them according to a draft proposal from the PBOC. The central bank also plans to extend their validity to 9 months and remove limits on the number of times each permit can be used. So China wants more gold.
Yeah. And, it says imports and exports, but China doesn't export any gold. They keep it all. So they're the world's largest producer of gold, and they're the world's largest buyer, the importer of gold. And so this just allows them to import more easily. And so, we have one hell of a bull market coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And more news from China on the Shanghai Futures Exchange. These are gold inventories, and you can see they've absolutely exploded. This is like unfathomable. It almost feels like a typo, but it's not. And you could see that the amount of gold on the exchanges was pretty flat for about 7 years, started creeping up in the last year or so, and now it's exploding.
It's an amazing chart, but the commentary from Zero Hedge is actually even more amazing. China secretly buying up massive amounts of gold, 10 times more than officially reported, according to Goldman Sachs. But that's old. That's from the end of last year. And then Zero Hedge reposted that and said, not so secret anymore. And that's true. This is, what we've seen is this tremendous increase in price that corresponds with this chart. We've seen a price increase that where we have these bull markets where it isn't the West that's doing the buying. And even people in our sector are going, what is driving this? Well, there it is. Bam.
There you go. China, they're buying it all.